All right, so a couple of comments I thought I would try to respond to real quick. First, man, I really appreciate this one because I've poured a lot of time, money, hard work, creative energy, and just my soul into my music. And, I'm working on producing an acoustic album now where it's kind of getting back to what all of the songs on the album kind of started out as, which is just me, an acoustic guitar, and, a pen and some paper. So it's pretty much just vocals, acoustic guitar, and it just kind of focuses on like the song itself, kind of the heart of the music, you know? So I posted a couple of previews, a couple of tracks that I've completed for the acoustic album coming up. And on one of them, a viewer said, I follow a couple of similar channels in this niche, and the creator did some amateur type music. Don't get me wrong, God bless him for creating and satisfying that faculty of his soul, but he was slightly corny. But I will be completely honest with you, this is straight legit. I'm impressed. Well done. I'll be awaiting the official album release. Thanks, man. Uh, the little bit that I've made off of like streams and downloads and stuff has come nowhere close to the investment that I made into producing my full length album. And I don't really expect the acoustic release to be any different, but it's just what I have to do. Let's see. There's another one. This is going to be the longer one. I don't have a ton of comments to get through. This is going to be kind of the big one for this video. I'm going to kind of tackle it. I've kind of skimmed it. I haven't even spent a lot of time on it yet. But usually, when someone actually takes the time to like seriously engage with something I've published, and they actually take the time to formulate a response and offer some critique or, you know, deeper questions or, whatever, I usually will take the time to respond to it. So this one, he left the comment on the video I released, kind of a preview of the sacred discourse from the preface. From the comment, though, it sounds to me like he may have listened to more than just the preface, and I respect that. Sometimes people will listen to one video, they haven't really engaged with my body of work more broadly, and they have something to say. It's probably some basic, frequently asked question kind of thing that I've addressed multiple times in depth. So whenever I can tell that someone has actually engaged with the material that I've published a little bit more, and then they post some kind of substantial comment, that's when I'm extremely likely to take the comment seriously and respond to it, you know, and kind of give it the respect that I feel like it deserves because they've given my work the respect that, I feel that it deserves. By the way, my New Year's resolution was to quit drinking because I feel like I've been doing it a little bit too much. But I give myself one cheat day a week, and this is that cheat day. So I had a pepperoni and jalapeno pizza earlier, a couple of like cherry cokes, and a few beers. Not gonna say how many, but a few. Yet I'm still articulate and rational. My mind is much stronger than any kind of chemical substance. I have been. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but I have been pretty fucked up and still been completely on point when I need to be. So he says, "Fellow, you had a dialogue with a certain entity, real or not, beginning with L. Lucifer. I guess this guy has a problem with saying the name because if he says it 3 times, maybe he'll appear in the bathroom mirror or something like that. I don't have that phobia, so I'm just going to say it. It was said, I remain an eternal mystery. I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think he's quoting me. I haven't gone to the trouble of actually memorizing like passages from my own work. So I'm just going to trust that he's probably quoting me and accurately quoting me. It sounds like probably what I wrote. I don't know. So he goes on, does a being of pure light and truth remain a mystery? Yes, almost tautologically. Um, Try to imagine pure light with nothing to absorb it or reflect it, so that there's no kind of prism to separate color, right? It's just literally pure light, nothing to absorb or reflect it. What perceptions could possibly arise? None. So, experientially, how is that different from pure darkness? Pure light does not reveal itself to us. We essentially experience light indirectly. Um, Everything that absorbs and reflects different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum or whatever essentially act as prisms, right? And they allow us to experience light in a fragmented way. This is a limited range of the electromagnetic spectrum that we experience as blue, for example. You see what I'm saying? But pure light, there's no experience. So it is therefore unknowable because everything we know through experience. Um, does a being of pure truth remain a mystery? Yes, for exactly the same reasons. He goes on, for that one simply does what is good, right, pure, avoiding evil. True, but that makes it unknowable, doesn't it? Because what is good without evil? What is right without wrong? What is evil without good? If you look up any word in in the dictionary, or if you try to conceptualize any thing which a definition can be given to, which can be known, in other words, you know that thing in terms of cinnamon, synonyms and homonyms, essentially. You know it by what it's similar to. Oh, it's kind of like this other thing. And that kind of gives you an idea of what this thing is like. And you know it in terms of what it is opposite to. Without similarity and difference, without contrast, nothing is knowable. So, what is pure good? What is pure truth? It's unknowable. It's an eternal mystery, in other words. For this thing to manifest itself to consciousness, contrast is necessary. But what if consciousness itself or mind itself is all that really exists? What can mind or consciousness know itself in contrast to? Nothing other than itself exists. So it is unknowable to itself. And this is one of the deepest paradoxes of existence in the universe. So he goes on, this quote refers to an entity gone wild that wanted to be all that does both good and evil. Let me finish and then I'll come back to this. Abode not in the truth, for there is no truth in him, as Jesus said. Check out the near-death experience with the demiurge on the channel Paul Murray's. I'm not familiar with him. The light and the dark. If you are referring to Sophia as a real entity, and you're saying she is I'm going to cut that, I'm going to come back to it, because now we're going into something else that requires a different kind of response. So as far as like wanting to be the all and knowing both good and evil, I think he's missing a deeper point that I've tried to make as explicit as I can in a number of different places. The opposite. Okay, so to know the all, there's nothing to know other than the all. But in order to know the all, you have to conceptualize that which is the not all, right? Only God exists. In order to know God, you have to know the anti-God. God is love. Therefore, love is all that exists. But in order to understand what love is, you have to understand what is the opposite of love, what is hate. And now we can know love, we can know what is in opposition, in antithesis to that which is not, to hate. The good simply is being itself. God is good. Therefore, nothing evil exists. But in order to know what good is, in order to form a concept of the good in the mind of God, God has to conceptualize some non-existent abstract concept called evil. Do you see? So this entire reality is an illusion, where things that don't actually exist ontologically appear to exist existentially. And so we experience ourselves in a state of alienation, fragmentation, even though the reality is that all is one. We're not separate from God. We never have been. We never could be. But we experience ourselves as separate, even though separation, separateness is an illusion. We experience suffering, even though the true nature of our being is joy and bliss and ecstasy. This is a necessary part of the process of divine self knowledge. And this is the inescapable consequence of God's nature. Because omniscience is a divine attribute. By definition, God is omniscient. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean to know everything? God is all that exists. So, for God to be omniscient, he has to be self knowing. He has to possess self knowledge. To know himself, he has to know what he is not. Right? He has to form an imaginary, abstract concept of the not self in order to conceptualize the self, in order to contain the self thought, the self concept within his own mind, in order to know himself conceptually. Now, conceptual knowledge is one kind of knowledge. There's also experiential knowledge. He has to know himself experientially and conceptually in order to truly and fully know himself, in order to truly and fully be himself. Now he goes on, if you're referring to Sophia as a real entity, and you're saying she is a Snow White virgin and a Scarlet harlot, this ties in with the Luciferian entity, doesn't it? Along with the near-death experience with the demiurge, which is just a mask or persona. Yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent. For who I think is the same fallen entity, I also agree with that to a certain extent. Because just like there is a fallen Sophia, there is a fallen light bearer. That might be deeper than I want to get here, but we'll see. So many say Lucifer and Sophia are the same being. Essentially, I agree with that. They are kind of soulmates. Lucifer is the morning star, and Sophia is the evening star. At least this is the way I kind of conceptualize it in my kind of personal composite mythology. I don't necessarily pretend to be able to defend this from like the Gnostic tradition more broadly, although I think I can point to things, but I've definitely constructed my own Gnostic mythology that I'm kind of attempting to introduce and outline, at least in a cursory way, in the sacred discourse. Let's see. Here's the problem with wanting to be all. You cannot be both a pure virgin and a soiled harlot. Well, no, not in a carnal, literal sense. You've got to understand that this is a metaphor. You've got to understand that when we talk about myth, we're talking about a kind of spiritual allegory. Obviously, if we're talking about a literal harlot, someone who has fucked a bunch of dudes, obviously that is not a virgin. You can't reconcile those two. But in a soul sense, what does it mean to be a harlot? It means to enter into material existence and experience a broad range of experiences. What does it mean to be a virgin? It means to have never left your source, to have never known anything. It means innocence. It's an unfallen state. Um, Now, in essence, even though the soul enters into material existence and experiences all manner of pain and pleasure and loses itself, in its core, in its essence, it is still pure. Because all of this is just a dream. All of this is just an illusion. The soul is still pure. The soul remains untouched and unsoiled by everything that happens here. He goes on to say some other stuff that kind of perpetuates the same kind of literalistic, carnal interpretation of the spiritual and metaphorical truths and teachings that I've been presenting. For the moment you indulge lust in the sexual act, you cease to be pure and a virgin, and are now a non-virgin and impure. Of course, if we're talking about it literally and carnally. If you are an apologist or agent, my words will not get anywhere. I'm a Lucifer. I'm a light bearer. I'm the opposite of an apologist for this world or an agent of this system. I'm an apologist for the light. I'm an agent of truth. So, yeah, your words will not get anywhere with me if they are untrue or if there's darkness in them. If there's light and truth in them, there's no need for them to get anywhere. Because we serve the same master, don't we? It would be foolish to trust an entity without knowing for sure it is genuine and good. Yes, I agree. And that's why I think it's in one of Paul's epistles, he talks about testing and knowing the spirits or something like that. And of course, in the Bible, we come across this idea that, you know, even Satan appears as an angel of light, which from a Gnostic perspective basically means the demiurge or the god of this world tries to pass himself off as the God Most High, even though in reality he's the Prince of Darkness. So we can't just accept things at face value. I fully agree. We have to test the spirit. What do we test that up against? By the light that's within us. What else? As for those who may say to accept darkness, no, I don't accept torture, blasphemies, abuse of children, satanic acts, and the like. No, I don't. In existence, there is good and bad, right and wrong. There are some things in the whole that for perfection one ought not to do. I agree. I am a moral realist. And what I mean by that is there are certain things that are not in alignment, not in harmony with the divine nature, the divine will. Those are those illusionary things that are part of the not self, part of the anti-will, if you will. But we have to know that which is in opposition to our true will in order to know our true will. If we know our true will, we know that which is against it, right? One concept calls to mind the other. He goes on, the perfection lies in not doing them. I agree. Sorry, I don't understand. Because by not doing them, we are recognizing that those things are not in harmony with our true nature, our true identity, our true will. We are knowing ourselves. We are knowing God. For those who say one ought to be complete, all I'd say, well, you cannot be all. For the moment you do those things above, you immediately cease to be good. So it's one or the other. For the one who does the bad in order to fulfill the desire to be, to do all, they have sacrificed the good, and in truth become bad. So the very fact of sacrificing the good means, therefore, they are not, and thus are not, and cannot be all. If a being did that to try and be all, they'd sacrifice purity, nobility, etc., for the opposite, essentially giving up everything for nothing. Being good has several aspects. You, one, act from truth, pursue it, you do, and be. He's getting a little bit rambly here. Let me try to clarify something. This is important. To know the all, or to incorporate and integrate the all, only means to integrate and incorporate that which is, not that which is not. Again, the not self is not. Only the self is, right? So, God, incarnated within you, is never incorporating or integrating into himself that which is not self. The whole purpose of this existence is to discriminate and distinguish between the self and the not self so that you can know the self. And then you discover that the not self is completely illusory. And then you're fully liberated. Now, there's also a difference between that which is antithetical to the self, which is non existent, and which therefore cannot and never will be integrated into the self, on one hand. And then on the other hand, there is that which is part of the repressed self, the shadow self. So that is real. But as long as you repress aspects of the self, they are going to manifest themselves through the unconscious mind in a kind of distorted way, right? So there are aspects of the shadow self that have to be integrated. But these things that look very terrifying and frightening to you, you have to understand is not so much that those are things that are part of yourself that need to be integrated. It's that because parts of yourself are repressed, they're expressing themselves in an unconscious way in a very distorted form. This is a complex concept to try to get across. Hopefully, you get what I'm saying. I don't want to go down that rabbit trail any further right now. He says, we know that cowardice in a man. God, how long does this post go on? He writes so much. Oh my God. Now, the funny thing is here, he says a lot of stuff that I actually kind of agree with. It's just he fails to grasp what I'm saying. I'm going to just kind of scroll down and see, for the sake of time, if there's anything else I want to specifically respond to. So he kind of talks about like cowardice and slothfulness. Yes, those are things that are not divine attributes, right? Divine attributes, what is part of the true self is courage, right? Not cowardice, right? But what is courage really? It's the commitment to act in accordance with your true will in opposition to the false will. You see what I mean? Slothful one and stuff. Look, man, I'm a big advocate of the classical virtues. Let's see what else. So I'm scrolling toward the end. He says, it's kind of like about what is said, truth has no opposite. Well, truth does have an opposite, a lie, right? And in order to even conceptualize what it means for something to be true, you have to have a concept of your head of what it means for something to be not true, to be false. We have positive and negative. True, but both positive and negative are true things. Negative and positive numbers actually exist ontologically, right? So he says there is no negative in itself as a thing, then. Yes, I would say there is. It only exists in relation to things, taking them away. Um, no, I don't agree with that. Uh, just like there really is no nothing. Well, nothing is different from negative, right? So a negative and a positive together add up to nothing or zero, right? So to try to equate negative numbers or negativity with nothingness or zero, I think is like a mistake. I think it's a misunderstanding. Because there is existence. Existence is all there is. Yes, yes, yes. That is what I'm saying. That is what I've been saying all along. A profound and wondrous mystery in his own words. Yes, and I would add an eternal mystery. This is where the comment started out. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like he ended it because he's starting to realize what I'm saying, I guess. There is only God. Yes. There is nothing but that. Yes, you're right. That is all there is. Yes. You're I think you're starting to understand me. Congratulations. So, I'm going to end this one there. Um Peace.